So Holden, I understand that you lived in Pennsylvania for most of your life and now you're a junior. The only subject that you're currently passing is English, which can be considered as your favorite subject. Aside from that, you're failing everything else. I've been told you've attended 3 schools previously, but you've been expelled from all of them. You're 16 and you also tend to have trouble finding enjoyment in things. You come from quite a wealthy family and you have a younger sister and 2 brothers, but the youngest passed away due to leukemia. You used to live in the Pensy dorms before your expulsion. Your mother is emotionally distraught due to your younger brother's death. Your father is also a lawyer, meaning he's not at home most of the time. There doesn't seem to be an activity that you particularly enjoy, but going out and drinking, although you're 16, seems to be a frequent outing. I understand that you've expressed your dislike towards people who act like phonies. They're people who are insincere and superficial by your definition. You're critical of them because they're inauthentic. I also see that you have trouble identifying your emotions and coping with them, and instead do things impulsively to numb yourself. During your escape to New York, you've been constantly drinking and seeking temporary company in order to avoid thinking about things that might trouble you. You've mentioned several times about how depressed you felt, but one thing which stands out to me is when you said, "What I really felt like, though, was committing suicide." That's an extreme statement. How often do you feel that way? I'd also like to point out some patterns of behavior I recognized during our therapy sessions. Often when you're the subject matter in a conversation, you tend to space out and think of other things. This is especially prevalent in your conversation with Mr. Spencer, your history teacher. While he was lecturing you about flunking and your future, you didn't seem to take it seriously. You said, "Well, you could see he felt pretty lousy about flunking me. I told him I was a real moron and all that stuff." While you agreed with him, yes, you appeared to be extremely passive about it. Your repeated flunking gives a clear impression that this feeling of detachment may have taken manifestation in your academic career and possibly in your daily life too. I'd also like to make note of the fact that this aloofness makes you unable to be confrontational with your own feelings, and you end up lashing out. When your younger brother Ali had suddenly died, you were confused, which is understandable considering you were 13 at the time. You didn't want to talk about those overwhelming feelings of grief, so instead you destroyed the garage windows in your home. By the way you describe Ali, he was terrifically intelligent. His teachers were always writing letters to my mother, telling her what a pleasure it was to have a boy like Ali in their class. He was also the nicest in a lot of ways, is of fondness and admiration. You were very close to him. The reason you might be dismissive about talking about yourself could be because you're subconsciously aware that you might process your emotions in such a way that ends up being self-destructive. This is your subconscious trying to protect you, a defense mechanism you didn't know you were using in the first place. Before we close, I'd like to offer you some advice, Holden. It can be quite scary when you boil over, but the next time something happens, let's say you might have gotten into an argument with a friend, or there's something you might personally be struggling with, talk about it with somebody. Practice talking about your feelings with the people around you bit by bit. Vulnerability is something that we all share, and everybody needs to express it in some way or another, including you. I'd like to recommend that you read The Inside World of Boys by William Pollack. In the text, the author says, "A boy is not expected to reach out to his family, to his friends, his counselors or coaches for help, comfort, understanding, and support. And so he's simply not as close as he could be to the people who love him and yearn to give him the human connections of love, caring, and affection every person needs." What the author means by that is that there's this code, the boy code, which reinforces the repression of feeling and showing it. This model makes the young men think that normal feelings that everyone has, is a sign of weakness. But Holden, I want you to know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with feeling the way you feel. There is courage in being able to reach out and talk to somebody. Furthermore, another reading that would be helpful is America's Boys Are Broken. The text says, too many boys are trapped in the same suffocating, outdated model of masculinity, where manhood is measured by strength, where there is no way to be vulnerable without being emasculated, where manliness is about having power over others. they are trapped and they don't even know the language to talk about how they feel about being trapped, because the language that exists to discuss the full range of human emotions is still viewed as sensitive and feminine. The boy code, as we mentioned earlier, emphasizes that a man's aggression, competitiveness, and strength are what defines him as a whole. But now that those traits aren't as valuable anymore, they don't know how to act. Boys have a hard time being able to display their real emotions. However, society has recognized that this code is breaking our boys altogether, and we're trying to find new ways which lets boys know it's okay to be sensitive and hurt. Holden, I think you're able to take this brave step in being more comfortable with yourself. Give yourself time to acknowledge the emotions you're currently having, and when you know that feeling is too much, talk about it with someone you're close with. Your family, the friends around you, they all care about you. Losing your brother might have closed you off from feeling as a way to protect you, but having these feelings doesn't mean they'll break you as they might have before. I know how capable you are, and I believe you can find the clarity you need.